Hey, welcome back to the podcast. And today we are here with Kea from Creating with Kea. So, welcome to the podcast. And I'm going to completely confess right now, everyone. This is a super fan moment for me. I will say I absolutely am a super fan of Kea. I love her content, and she's probably one of those people who help motivate me to become a creator myself. So it's such a privilege to have you on here, Kea. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm so honored.
Oh, don't be. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who absolutely love to watch creators and I'm just glad that I get to interview you and get a little bit of your backstory. So with that, do you mind telling us a little bit about you? I know many of us probably watch you, but I want to hear it right from you. Tell us about Kea.
Absolutely. So I started as a natural hair content creator, actually. I was learning how to navigate and love my natural hair texture. So I started with a blog back in 2016. And as things just kind of snowballed with time, I started dabbling in sharing about skincare and other aspects of my life. And in 2020, that's when and I think a lot of people started to take it really seriously. I started to think about how I could approach it more as a business, actually make money from this thing, offset all of the costs that I was putting into hosting my website and paying for Lightroom and all of that type of stuff. And honestly, that mindset shifted wonders. I was eventually able to make money from it, enough to quit my day job, which I did in 2022. And yeah, since then, I have been doing this full time on the hair, beauty, lifestyle side. And I also started a venture, which is Creating with Kea, to assist and motivate and kind of help other creators through this strange world themselves.
Yeah, content creation is its own little beast. It's so
Yes.
consuming. I think before we jumped on to the podcast and started recording here, we were talking about equipment and how much just even the equipment starts becoming all consuming. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And how would you say your transition has gone from blogger, creator to now creator, kind of educator, but on a
Hmm.
different scope? Because yes, you were an educator, as you know, with the curls. But how is it now as being an educator on how to become a creator?
Yeah, I think there's two things that come to mind. One side of me says it's completely different from where I thought I would end up. I did actually, from the beginning, have tips on my blog. In hindsight, they didn't belong there because it was a hair blog, but every so often I would post something like, here's how much it costs to start a blog. Here's how much time it takes. Like right from the beginning, actually, because I did want to just be able to document and share my journey as I was going through it. But in the capacity that I do now, I never imagined it. I also never imagined myself doing video, never imagined myself being on YouTube. I was like, I'm a writer. That's why I have to have a blog. And then when I started the blog, I was like, oh, wait, people want to see pictures of my hair. I guess I have to take pictures. So it really wasn't, I didn't set out to kind of be this face of an online presence, let alone, opening up my camera and making YouTube videos every week. Um, so it feels really different, but at the same time, it does feel like the same in the sense that I'm still educating, like you say, I'm still sharing, I'm still teaching, and it's still all based on my own journey.
And like it's so interesting, when we think, okay, I'm a writer, and I am a writer. I have a published book over here.
Oh, amazing.
So I am a writer, and where my kind of story happened as well was I also love food, and I'm a vegetarian. So I was taking a lot of pictures of vegetarian and vegan food and then posting it on Instagram. And then people started asking about, can I have the recipe? And then so the recipe started I'm writing them, and I started a
Mm.
blog to
Yes.
document the recipes. And then people were like, well, can you show us how to do these? And then it evolved into me doing videos on
Wow.
like cooking tutorials. I didn't know how time consuming they were, and that's why my channel's still up, but I don't do anything on it anymore. But it was just too time consuming. But I did fall
Yeah.
in love with the creator, I guess, experience, you could say, at that point, and ended up putting everything on hiatus, continued working, and 2023 just had a, come into Jesus moment where I just said, I can't do this anymore. I need to be able to get out there. So it's
Yeah.
interesting seeing your evolution of where it went. Now, were you kind of a creative person to begin with, or like what's a little bit of your backstory?
Yeah, so I think two probably key things from my history that influence where I'm at now. One, I actually grew up as a dancer. From the age of 2, I was a competitive dancer. I actually moved to New York for a year to pursue dancing.
Wow.
But so I think that helps with a lot of the camera presence. I don't get shy on camera. It did still get taking used to, you know, do the YouTube thing and be fully comfortable, but it wasn't the same starting place as I think a lot of people face. Um, but kind of through my journey, I actually realized that, as good as I was at dancing, it wasn't where my passion lied. I actually, it's so great that you said that you are a writer, because that's where my passion was. I wanted to be a uh, published fiction writer, young adult fiction. That was my dream, still is a dream. But so I've been writing since as long as I can remember too. So that is kind of the creative aspect that I've kind of always felt in my heart. And that was my way of self expressing. And then, to what you said earlier, falling in love with just that creative experience. I picked up a camera when I was starting my blog, and I fell in love with that. And I've since fallen in love with video and realized that all of these different formats are different types of storytelling and different types of self-expression.
It's interesting that you say that, because I saw a Facebook post of mine from years ago, and I'm talking probably about 15 years ago, where I talked about going into chapters, which it's now called chapters out
Mm-hmm.
here. I went into chapters to buy a book, and I was intent on going and buying a cookbook. And what I ended up coming home with was an Oprah book. And it was about, living your authentic life and that type of thing. And I always said, is does the universe potentially put the things that are meant for us in our path in some way? Because that book, I can say, probably got me out of thinking that I had to be in finance for the rest of
Mm.
my life. It started opening up my eyes to listening to those God whispers of somebody saying, or not somebody, but little things that would come up and be put in your path. So, when you mentioned, I picked up a camera and fell in love with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was a writer and started the blog. So it's these little moments that you're like, okay, did this happen because of me or for me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yes. Oh, I
So,
love that.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and I have a published YA book as a youth young adult book. It's a
Yep.
dystopian thriller,
Oh,
and I keep
oh.
being asked to write the second book, because I do have the framework. It's actually sitting over there. I do have the framework for the second book, but I haven't gone beyond the framework at this point, because I have ADHD, and it was one of these like, oh, I've done it. Check, it's off my list.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I feel like we could have like a whole second chat about all of this, because that's like fantasy, sci-fi, dystopian is actually right up my lane. That's so funny.
Yeah,
So
and I do
funny.
want to go back and re-edit that book, and get it formatted properly, because it was one of these, okay, it's out there, at least it's done
Yeah.
kind of moments.
Yeah.
I always wanted to a goal, so it was like check, check, I'm good. Let's move on. Anyway,
That's so amazing.
yeah.
So
So
amazing.
I implore you, write. It is
Yeah.
probably one of the, like, get that book published. It will be something that you said, okay, this was a dream, a goal that I thought of, and you did it. Even if only one person ever reads it,
Yeah.
you've done it. So,
Yeah. I'm
and
taking
with
that to heart.
self-publishing nowadays, it's so easy to do. And
That's
you
true
being a
too.
content creator, I'm just saying,
I know. I
hello,
know.
hello, Penguin House, come on, she needs the contract. Let's
Hello.
go.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, maybe this is the year I reignite that side of me.
Well, I'm sure you have a lot on the go anyway with what you do too.
That too.
I think creatives have a hard time reining it in sometimes.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So what ended up making, I know you talked about it briefly, that you had this
Hmm.
interest of writing the blog. But is there anything else that really motivated you outside of that to kind of start the business, start the blog, whatever, start the channel? Was there
Uh,
anything outside of just that initial, I am interested in writing?
I think the very first initial venture into creating content or to blogging was actually my dad. He had a couple websites under his belt and he knew that I loved writing. And he was kind of that person in the corner always being like, why don't you just do it? Why don't you just start a blog? And so that was definitely an external driving factor. And then I think truly, 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 what motivated me to actually start and to start this second channel has been the drive. It's so cliche, but to help others. Like we hear so much talk that information's not available or it's hard to find things. And I wanted to always be the challenge to that in a sense. It's also why I love like SEO, because if somebody, for example, wants to Google, how to set influencer rates, right now at least, we'll see if it'll change. I'm on the front page of Google for that on my blog.
Woo!
So,
Yeah.
but it's great because it's like, yes, okay, that's SEO, that's the business analytic mindset where we can drive that, but at the core of that is making sure I have information out there that answers people's questions. And I think that's kind of been the core of everything that I do when I put out a YouTube video or I'm trying to think about what concept to do next. It really is like, what is a problem that I think people are having, or what's a question they might be asking, and how can I make sure that information is accessible to them?
Oh, that's awesome. And I think Roberta Blake, actually,
Yes.
I know that Roberto Blake has said this. He did a tweet about, if you are creating a YouTube video and that translates to a blog, that translates to an Instagram page, whatever the case may be. If you are not kind of providing value to others, then it's going to be a kind of a burn and churn type of thing. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So, providing information, and I think that's where I came from too, is I love everything business. I am an
Mhm.
analytic. When you said SEO and data, that is my jam. I could like delve into the whole SEO thing. I absolutely love it. And when oh my goodness, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah.
Analytics, data,
Yeah, analytic.
nerdiness.
Yeah, all of that kind of nerdiness and data and that type of thing. The more I kind of learn, the more I want to kind of share that information. It really, that that yearning, I guess, because my finance career, I have always been, even though I'm in financial sales, I've always taken the avenue of, I want to be an educator first. I want to help people first. And I think that's why I ended up with a 31-year career in financial sales, because of the fact that I came from that provide value first place rather than what's in it for me for place type of thing. So I love what you just said there about, providing information and helping others. So love it. Love it. And that's why I love you. I love what, I mean, girl, you could sit there and talk about what shade of mud is on the ground, and I would probably watch that video from beginning to end if it was an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours long. You are probably one of the best storytellers I have ever seen on YouTube, and just, yeah. So
You are melting my heart. Honestly, it's so funny because the biggest hesitation I had around starting on YouTube was that, like, I am, even though a lot of people don't think so, I am introverted. And I think also anyone who sees my content knows that I am more of like a level speaker. I'm not really over the top. And I used to think, oh, that's not going to work on YouTube. Nobody's going to watch me. They're going to think I'm boring. And so anytime anyone says otherwise, oh, I really appreciate it.
no, I love, so who is the creator? She does a lot of vlogs and she's very popular. Life with Riza.
Oh,
So
yes.
you
Yeah.
are like Life with Riza, but with intention around what you're providing, with
Oh,
value being
oh,
provided. It's like this
that
story that's just lovely, and yeah, yeah,
I
just
got
beautiful about it.
goosebumps because she inspires me with all of the cinematic aspects. So, oh, man, you're just making me feel so nice.
Oh, again, sorry, fangirl moment, everyone.
No.
I'm truly a fangirl here. So,
Oh,
all right. So you mentioned 2020 as being kind of this dip into the pond moment where I'm going to really start delving into more of the content creation. You started the blog earlier in 2016. But what was it, or what was the moment where you said, okay, I'm going to start doing this full time? What did that look like for you? Like, was it a monetary thing? Was it a
mm,
spiritual thing? Was it just a gut feeling? Because we always hear Peter McKinnon quit his job when he had his first
yeah.
55 cents on YouTube. What is
Yeah.
your Peter McKinnon moment, I guess?
I would probably say mine is the exact opposite of a Peter McKinnon moment. So two sort of things. First was I say 2020 was the year that I made my first $10,000.
Oh,
And that was literally a jump from like zero the year before to 10K. And that shift had been like, okay, I've been doing this for 4 years now. I've been spending money on it. I see people making money on this. Like, what can I start to do differently? And I think it was honestly at the start of the year, I made spreadsheets for myself, tracking my expenses and being like, okay, this is how much I'm spending. I've written it down on paper. I need to at least pass this. Then I
right.
said, okay, how am I going to pass this? Okay, I'm going to blog more with affiliate links. I'm going to start pitching brands. I'm going to create content more intentionally to attract brands. And all of that sort of happened and snowballed to make that first 10K. And then in 2021, I dialed it up. I started to understand my worth around how much to charge brands. I started to learn more about negotiating. And at that point, went from my first 10K to my first 70K in a
Oh,
calendar
wow.
year.
That's a
And
huge
so
jump.
it's a huge jump. And honestly, it like truly shocked me. But at the same time, it was very strategic. And it was literally at the end of 2021. I had looked at all of the work I had been doing, all of the late nights to hit deadlines, like zero social life. People were asking me what I thought about Netflix shows. Like I hadn't watched a show in forever, like not necessarily the healthiest. Um, so I looked at that and I was like, you know what? If I made $70,000 this year, I can quit my job. Like if I can do this another year, and who knows like how much time I could dedicate to it if I wasn't also managing my day job, like I should be able to do this. And so that was like my Peter McKinnon moment. It was the opposite. It wasn't a complete, trust on whatever's to come. Not to say I didn't trust it, but it was a calculated risk. Like I had already proven to myself that I could do this for a year.
Right.
And then from there, I didn't even quit right away. I gave my boss 6 months notice.
Really? Oh,
Yes.
you were
Yeah.
generous.
I know. It's so funny. I had a job with a lot of responsibility. And at that point, my boss had also actually he was the director, and he was wanting to prepare me to take his role. And so I felt like I really, owed it to him and to my peers. We're a small team, to like really set things up in my absence and, be there to train the person for a while. Ironically, the person didn't last a month after all
Oh,
of that, after I left. Maybe it was a little bit longer, but it wasn't much longer. So that's kind of my quitting my job story. But yeah, very, very, very calculated risk.
it's very Canadian of you to be that generous, because just so everyone who's watching knows, in Canada, most people give 2 weeks notice. So
Yeah.
6 months notice is a little generous, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing this. Content creation when you're working is very, very difficult. So the fact that she's doing it at that kind of level and giving that kind of freedom and that to, her employers to be able to find a replacement, that is like a pure soul moment. So
I will say I appreciate that. And I will say too, though, there were some personal benefits to that. Like I think that giving myself that much time did allow me to have like a bit more of a buffer. I probably should have saved more during that time, like I thought I was going to. But I think it made the transition just a lot smoother for me. I think I still struggled on the other side of it in terms of the actual transition of my day-to-day life, but
right.
I think it was great to kind of mentally prepare myself over that time to be like, okay, like this isn't going to be lasting forever. Let's count down on this. And it also, I think, made me appreciate a lot of elements of my day job even more, like the people I was seeing every day, the people that I was able to help in that space. So
Mhm.
yeah.
It's always about the people, I think. That's
Hmm.
that's usually the hardest. Prior to this, did you have any kind of business experience, or was this kind of brand new for you?
This was brand new for me. I would say that in terms of, I'd always been a bit of a self starter in a lot of different avenues and interests. So similar with writing, like I dove all in. I was really interested at the time in being like traditionally published. So I like learned everything I needed to do and went all in on that. Same with photography and now videography. Like when I want to do something, I will be all in on the interests and trying to navigate and figure out and accumulating all the information and sorting through it, trial and erroring. But this was my absolute first official business venture, trying to make money from something on my own.
That's amazing, because there's so many people, myself included, who have multiple entrepreneurial kind of dips in the pond before something actually stick. And for me, I've been a serial entrepreneur since probably the time I was 4. I was always doing something. I always loved the building of a business, and
Mm.
hence why I now help people to build businesses, because I've done it
The
so
best
many
part.
times that I can do it with my eyes closed now. But bravo to you, because honestly, it's very, very rare to find somebody who gets into one thing and makes it stick in the long term.
Yeah.
So, did you have help with anything? Like, was there any kind of government programs that you took advantage of, or any kind of
No.
training, or? Anything?
No, honestly, and I think
Wow.
that's one of the reasons why I was so passionate about starting creating with Kea, because I didn't have help. I didn't even take like a course or anything. And I think because of that, there's pros and cons to that. Like, I think that's why you could say it took so long to actually make this profitable on paper from like the time that I actually started the venture. Um, but I do truly believe that I learned because of my own trial and error and the information that was available to me. So I try my best to kind of consolidate all that information to make somebody else's journey a little bit faster, that they can kind of move through those stages maybe in the terms of months versus years like I did.
Right, right. Oh, well, you know what? Everyone moves at their own speed, and that
Yeah.
obviously was comfortable for you at the time. Because I do think that when people are ready to move to the next spot, that's when they're in that active information accumulation stage. So if you didn't get there right away from 2016 until whenever, it means that you were going at the flow and the pace that you were comfortable with, I think.
Very true. Very
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Now, that being said, where where do you want to go? Like, is this where you're going to be? Like, what does your kind of future creator business kind of look like to you? Do you have like a game plan, a goal in mind?
That's such a good question. I feel like it's changed a lot over the years. I think I've really learned to be more open because everything that I'm doing right now, I don't think I could have ever effectively planned for it or predicted it. I think of like all of my favorite opportunities throughout this journey, again, could not have planned for, could not have even dreamed of them to put them on a vision board. So I think I envision myself continuing to be very open, um, and doing more of just what I love. So I love teaching. I love playing with video. I love creating. Um, I know that a lot of creators, as they start to scale, they'll start to take on more of a managerial role and then realize that they've drifted from the things that they enjoy. And they're like, I didn't sign up to be a manager. Like, that's not why I started on YouTube. Um, so I am very conscious of, I would love to scale. I'd love to have a team one day. Like, that's a very big one day for me. But I think as I do so, I would be very, very conscious of what aspects of my business I give up and what I like want to hold precious to myself so that I still enjoy this journey. I would love to do more speaking opportunities. That's kind of been, again, a very surprise angle for me. I've spoken at a number of different conferences and local events, international ones, and like that's something I never thought I would have liked, but I love, love, love it, and would love to do more of that. And yeah, I'm honestly just I'm so open.
All right. So TEDx, if you are watching,
Yeah, let's make it happen.
you know, Tony Robbins, if you need an opener, we got the girl for you. All right. Well, yeah, when you talk about talking in public and that's probably actually where my start really did come from. If I look back,
Hmm.
my career, I for a large portion of the time, I was an account executive in the financial world, and I would speak in front of very, very large audiences of financial professionals, and I always felt extremely comfortable. And I always got the
Yeah.
feedback of, wow, you do that so fluidity, like, sorry, you do that so fluid and you don't seem intimidated. I'm like, oh, you have no idea how much I was shaking behind the scenes. But no, it's probably where I got comfortable with it, but you're experiencing the opposite where this
Yeah.
got you into those speaking experiences. So it's interesting.
Oh,
Yeah,
it really
there's
is.
so many similarities here. Writing, the
The
tone,
parallels are crazy.
though the age is much different. You know, that's okay though. That is absolutely okay. So now I know that you are on YouTube and I know you are on Instagram. I assume you were also on Pinterest. Actually, I do know you were on Pinterest because you have a video on that. Now, where do you focus most of your energy in regards to social media? And what kind of place do you like being in mainly?
Oh, great question. So I think something I do credit a lot of my quote unquote success to, because I am such a small creator on paper. Like, I think a lot of people are like, how did you quit your day job with so many X followers? I quit my day job technically when I had like, I think 12,000 Instagram followers. And,
Okay.
the assumption is always that it's like you need hundreds of thousands to do that. Um, and I think I credit the fact that I am everywhere on the internet to that. Like, I am somebody who approaches content creation as this overarching business and brand, and therefore I need to have a presence everywhere. I don't want to be considered like a one trick pony or somebody who blew up on Instagram one day and just decided to uh, run with it. I wanted it to be like, okay, this girl has been intentional about how she shows up all across the internet. So from the get go, for both my brands, I had a blog, an Instagram, a Twitter, a now there's Threads. Like, literally, if it exists on the internet, like, if I really want to age myself in the creating world, does anybody remember Stumble Upon?
Oh, no, I don't yeah, no, I don't. I've never known about Stumble Upon.
It
All
was
I
it
know is
was really
MySpace, and that's
okay. Yes, yeah.
yeah.
So Stumble Upon was literally a website that you would go on, and it would just randomly shuffle a website for you based
Oh,
on your interests. And it was like an early type of algorithm. So based on the things you like, it would show you more random websites. And so I made sure my websites were on Stumble Upon. Um, so I think first and foremost, I'm everywhere, and I think there's value to being everywhere. In terms of where I focus my energy, Instagram is my moneymaker. Like, that's where I do the most of
really?
my brand deals. Yeah, I think, like, especially on like the hair, beauty, lifestyle side, like that's what pays my bills. Um, and YouTube is definitely my heart. Like, I feel like lately I've just loved the long form storytelling. I love the community that I feel like I'm building there. So I also spend so much time there, but it's not like the biggest return on investment yet. We're trusting the process. And Pinterest, I think anybody who's kind of been around for a while, I'm always gushing about Pinterest, from the actual platform to the people who work there to all of it. I'm just in love. And it's just such a like happy corner of the internet. So I feel like YouTube and Pinterest are like where I'm happiest creating, brings me a lot of peace and joy. And then like Instagram, I feel like is a necessity for me. It's what pays the bills.
I'm giggling because I 100% get you. I love YouTube and I love Pinterest. I think Pinterest is such an undervalued
Mm-hmm.
social media slash SEO platform. I think it's so underrated, and I love being there. It's such a nice space to be in.
It
And
is.
I'm not on TikTok yet. I was on TikTok before. I had a very large following for something else, documenting my sober journey. So
Mm,
I'm coming up to 2 years sober myself. And
congratulations.
thank you. And I had a sober kind of journey TikTok channel where I was talking about being just a wine mom,
Mm,
and the wine mom culture. However, my employer had asked me at the time to shut it down,
ah,
and I had to because I was working for somebody else, and they didn't want to be associated to it, so I did have to shut it down, and that's okay. That's
yeah,
absolutely okay. And then I just started on Instagram now, and exactly what you say. It feels almost necessary because that is where a large portion of my client space is as well.
yeah.
But I'm also kind of still diving deep on the blogging thing, even though I'm somewhat worried about, the whole transition to AI and the transition to SGE. I think that's
Oh,
why I'm kind of really moving more into the YouTube space because of the fact that the two go hand in hand,
yes.
really ideally.
Honestly,
Mhm.
yeah. Oh, honestly, that reminds me of two kind of different points. One quick one on TikTok. TikTok is technically my biggest platform.
Oh,
And I literally, I think, posted there recently, like, you're probably not going to see me very much because I've kind of written it off. Like, I, there's a lot of value there, I think, for general awareness, but I just feel like my time is so much better spent on all of these other platforms. So I'm
mhm.
still there technically, but I don't, me not posting there for say like the past 6 months hasn't harmed my business in any way.
Right.
So why do I want to put more energy into it if it's not harming it? Um, but on the
Totally get
blog
it.
front, I'm yeah, I feel like you understand. And it's funny on the blog front because I am such a believer in blogging to this day. I'm like, I believe in it. I still think it's so worth your time. I have been consistently blogging again on my Creating with Kea website since the beginning of February, and I'm seeing results from it. Like people are still searching.
Right.
But I think what you said about going hand in hand in YouTube is so powerful because that's exactly what I've been doing. I've been using AI to, this is my like cheat sheet. So I take my YouTube transcript because you can like export it on the side of YouTube. And then I put it into ChatGPT and I say, hey, I'm working on a blog post. This is my YouTube video. Can you reframe this into a blog post for me?
Yep.
And it spits it out. I will say I still spend probably like 3 hours rewriting it. I still am like going through and doing the SEO and adding in all my images and everything.
Yes.
But it's allowed me to be consistent there again. It's great for the people who want to skim information quickly, copy and paste things. They don't want to have to like sift through or watch something at 2 times the speed to try and get like the key nuggets out of. And I think that blogging is still going to be here for things that are your own lived experiences and advice. Like,
I agree.
yeah, so any blog post I'm doing, yes, it's being regenerated from my YouTube videos, but my YouTube videos are talking about my experiences with something. So I think that that is not going to go anywhere. If anything, it's people are going to be thirsty for that. They're going to be sick of like, okay, yes, ChatGPT spat out these points and it's yes, it can give me context and why it's important, but I want to see how it actually is affecting somebody in real life.
Yes. That human touch, that human factor,
Mm-hmm.
there's absolutely nothing that can replace that. I think, ChatGPT had this huge moment. And don't get me wrong, it's still a huge moment. But I do think a lot of people are going back to the okay, I don't know if I'm trusting this now. If everyone's
Mm-hmm.
using AI to create content and with the new Google launch that happened today
Yeah.
yesterday I think it was, you hear of people's websites being shut down who were using AI to just generate content, whereas with us I'm doing the exact same thing as you, by the
Yeah.
way, and I use Gemini.
Okay. Yeah.
Which, so I've done a test drive of both of them side by side, again analytic. So I did a test drive side by side to see what I preferred. I just talked about it in my newsletter last week that I have completely transitioned to Gemini just
Okay.
because, well, there's two things. I saw one creator who he's an SEO expert who did say that he now with Gemini in the market, his worry is that anyone who uses ChatGPT for research may
Mm,
have some kind of watermark in the future, that
mm,
if they are using Google Gemini, then Google is going to push the Google Gemini user up over the ChatGPT person. So I'm like,
would not
okay,
be
that was one
surprised.
reason I started using it. But hands down, I will say the Gemini version it had more of that almost human feel to it, where it got my sense of humor. It got my language very quickly. I didn't have
Okay.
to tell it, hey, I want this tone. I just put it in there, and I said, based on this, what would you recommend? And it gave me a really, really great reformatted blog that I was
Ooh.
able to repurpose. And comparing time between ChatGPT versus Gemini, it was probably twice as quick to re-edit using all of the
Nice.
Gemini versions.
Okay, I'm
So
taking notes. I'm gonna go check that out because if it
yeah,
can save me like any time, because I honestly am using the ChatGPT ones as an like outline. I feel like it's not good enough, even remotely good enough to like be close to a blog post. So I
right.
will check that out.
And then sometimes you do have to prompt it. Now, I am paying for the
Mhm.
advanced. So the
Okay, yeah.
advanced does, though, give you a larger Google Workspace as well,
Cool.
because I'm constantly bumping up. Being a content creator, I'm
Yeah.
constantly bumping up on, the drive size
Yes.
because I have a hard time deleting.
Story of my life. Story of every creator's life, I think.
I might need it one day.
Uh, Honestly, though, I will say it has come in handy. The amount of B-roll that I pull from YouTube that's like this random moment that I've dug up on a random hard drive, or like I literally have like 5 SD cards just sitting on my desk right now. It's like, it's it's worth it. It's worth it when you can dig into your own archives of your life.
Yes, yeah. I have a 6 terabyte external SSD that's attached to the computer I'm on right now. And
Yeah.
I am within 2 years starting to bump up on the top of it. So I'm a
Yeah.
little
I've
bit of
got
a hoarder, I think, electronic hoarder.
Let me like this is about one, this is a 4, this is a 2, this is a 2. They're all almost full.
Okay. So no word of a
Yeah.
lie though. Be grateful that you have that process and that already, because if you do write your book, this is a true story. I actually wrote my book on my old laptop, which was a Sony. And my kids would once in a while play on it as well, because they were young. I think 8, 9, 10ish when this incident happened. And I had been writing on my Sony computer, and for some reason, that one night I said, I'm just going to back this up um, onto this external, because just in case. And because my son had asked me, oh, I want to play Fortnite on your laptop. Well, he got so excited, it flipped off of his bed. The hard drive broke on it. They weren't able to recover everything off of that hard drive, and had I not had I
You
not
just had that
saved that one
feeling.
night, I wouldn't have a published book. So, so it's a good practice for you to get in, keep
It
having.
is.
So,
It is. Oh, wow.
yeah.
You just had that foresight, that feeling, intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I feel like we're wandering everywhere, but
I
it's
know
all
that.
value-based. It's all good for people.
Yeah, people, there's so much to take notes from. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, all right. Now here's a kind of an intrinsic kind of question. How
Okay.
do you measure success as being both a business blog owner as well as a creator? What does success look like to you other than monetary? Because monetary is
Hmm.
easy to measure. So,
Yeah, that is a great question. I feel this is something that I actually think Colin and Samir have said in some of their podcasts. I think I really resonate with um, this sort of, it's probably not the healthiest, but external validation in a sense. Like, I think that it's so easy to get in our little bubble and we're so hard on ourselves. And I think that, like, anytime somebody says, even that they saw something I did, or that something had resonated, or like something that I had intentionally put in a video that like made me really happy, if somebody notices, for me that's just like, wow, okay, like we did it. We made it. So I think like that type of recognition and recognition by peers in your space, I think is kind of a bit of a marker of success for me for sure. On a like deeper level though, I think it really, I feel like one day a true measure of success for me would be a sense of balance. I think that as much as I absolutely love what I'm doing and I have so much like freedom pretty objectively, especially compared to traditional jobs with traditional responsibilities, I think that I still am in a sense where it's like, okay, like what is the next move for the business? What is the next brand deal? And I think that is kind of also like a weight of like monetary pressures, like, okay, we got bills to pay, things to do.
Yep.
But I think that sort of feeling, not attached to a number, but being like, okay, like I can put something out when I want to. I can create something for the sake of the story that I want to tell and not have to think about the monetary aspect. I think for me, that would be kind of true success, to just create stories that resonate with people, create helpful content, but not feel like it's attached to the pressures of like the algorithm or again to money or to clients or anything.
Right. Oh, it sounds like Peter McKinnon moment again.
I know, right? And you know what? I think that this is like really tangent, but one day I would like to also create a podcast because it's such an important thing to explore, because I think you see it with so many creators. I feel like if anything, it's the I made a video on it called the like inevitable stages of every content creator's career. And it's like, okay, you start and you're like, okay, I just want like an audience to, like just people to reach. And then it's like, okay, like it'd be really cool if, especially in the traditional influencing things like beauty products or even tech reviews, you're like, it'd be really cool if somebody wanted to send me to something. Like, would it? Yeah, exactly. Like, wow, like this thing that I would buy, like how freaking cool would that be? The next step is like, oh, like I should probably get paid for this. This is some labor. And then as you get paid, it's like, oh, I should diversify my income. And that's when you see a lot of creators, maybe selling merch, doing courses, digital products. After that, it's like, okay, this is all still attached to me posting. I want to maybe have a self-sustaining business. Maybe it's an agency, maybe it's a separate product, but it doesn't have to rely on me posting. And then after that, I think people start to realize like, well, now I'm a manager, or now I'm a boss, or like a CEO, and all of these things are cool, but that's not like the heart of why I wanted to do this. And you have people being like, I just want to quit, or I just want to do things on my own time. And like, I think that's kind of the ultimate goal for a lot of people, but like the benchmark is always moving and people aren't always aware that that even is the end goal. They're always just focused on like the next goal, which isn't a bad thing.
Right.
But I think that there's a lot of value to knowing that the ultimate end goal for like most people in this field is that sense of freedom to like just step back and not be attached to all these external factors that come with creating and just doing the thing for the sake of doing it and for the sake of the community.
Just to have that freedom. And I think that's where mine came from first too. I just wanted to create. And of course, me being the person I am, I have a business coach. And my business coach was like, what do you mean? You can't just, and I actually interviewed my business coach, and he's a young gentleman. And anyway, he's you can't just be a creator. You need to make some money. Next thing I know, we have a full-fledged business going, and I have this plan to hopefully transition into things. Yes. So I totally get it. Mine's happened very quickly, though. I remember I started this channel originally just to do video editing, to show if I could become a professional video editor over an entire year. I fell in love with the video editing process. It's so fun to me. But probably also why I love the podcast, because of the fact that it gave me another challenge of creating. When you do a podcast, a video podcast, you have to create like multi-cameras angles.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more work to do it, and I think that's why I love it, because it's a challenge on the editing side for me. But when I first started my channel, it was called the Mad Media Lab, and I was going to kind of document my kind of like what you're doing in the creator space, but I was going to document the transition from being a non-editor all the way to a professional editor, and that was going to be the premise of my channel. And then I realized how difficult that was to do. Working and everything is just too challenging. So, and then I said, do I love it enough to do it long term? And then here I am doing what I knew I wanted to create. And I knew I loved being in front of the camera as much as I love being behind it. And then, yeah, I ended up just saying, okay, what do I do well? What do I love? What do I think of often? And here I am. I'm doing exactly what I did. So it happened very, very quickly, my transition. I remember one day I had my website for Mad Media Lab, and I talked to my business coach and I said, thinking of transitioning it to this. And I talked to my VA as well. And I said, I'm thinking of transitioning it to this. And my VA was the one who said, there's enough video editors out there who are willing to do it for $5 an hour. Are you going to really have a sustainable business? And that's when the whole Sam Sulek thing blew up.
Oh, yeah.
Without having very much editing. And now everyone's creating a very raw, non-edited type videos. So I'm like, okay, hindsight is, I'm glad I listened to my VA. And she said, there's a space where not enough women have, and that's the premise of my business is she builds a biz and helping female sales agents to build kind of an online presence and a business that's optimized behind the scenes type of thing. And she said, there's not enough women helping women out there. So if it were me, I'd transition to that. And the next thing you know, 2 days later, I had a new brand up, completely ready to like completely online and everything. But it happened far too quick. So
I love that. When you know, it just all aligns and you go for it.
Yeah, it's strange how that happens. And so hearing about your journey too. So hearing about your journey, it's really kind of motivating in the sense that you can see how little steps have brought you to where you are today. But when you started to finally press the gas pedal, it took off.
Goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So true.
And I wish you well, and however your future goals end up becoming and molding into, it definitely, I'm going to be there to watch you. So,
Thank you. And thank you. And honestly, right back at you. I've subbed, I've followed. I'm excited for your journey and the conversations that you're having.
Oh, well, thank you. What do you find actually was your biggest challenges then? So along the way.
My biggest challenges have all been, I think, around organization and a type of discipline. I think something that I realized, or my biggest, the most difficult time I think was actually when I quit my day job. I've been pretty open about it, but the actual transition from like my last day of work to being like, okay, you're completely on your own now, was very difficult for me.
Okay.
And I think a lot of levels to it. One being, even through the pandemic, I worked in the office. I was facilities coordinator, so like we had to be there. We were part of the people implementing all of these systems. So I never got the chance to navigate working from home ever. So I literally went from being in the office to now being at home, having complete freedom over how I manage my time, my day, and I was not good at it. And I put a lot of pressure on myself to be good at it, especially because of social media and the comparison. I'd scroll through TikTok and it was all these girls like, I woke up at 6 a.m. and I've already worked out and here's my green juice and like all these different things. And now I'm getting to work. And I was like, I have not been able to get myself to move for hours. It was not, yeah. So and I find that comparison just had me spiraling and spiraling and spiraling. And even to this day, I've built out some systems that work for myself. I'm actually in the middle of testing a new system right now. We're in week 2 where I batch a different type of content creating or task every day. Mondays for admin tasks, Tuesdays for YouTube, blogging, etc. And that's been working for me. But overall, I think that that's kind of been my biggest struggle in the procrastination and everything. It really gets me sometimes where I'm like, this is what I love doing. And yet for some reason, sometimes I can't bring myself to like do the task. So that's definitely been something. Yeah, it is. And I think, I think that's really it. And I think also there's so many aspects of this that are really shiny. Like for me, YouTube has been that thing that is so shiny. I love it. I will pour all of my time and effort into it when, again, as I said earlier, like Instagram pays my bills.
Yeah.
So like the logical business person would be like, okay, how can we be present on Instagram? Whereas I'll blink sometimes and I haven't posted in a couple of weeks, but I've been posting YouTube videos every week because it's fun for me. So
you know what though? The YouTube is evergreen, so it will pay in the long run. But yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I keep telling myself, trust the process. It's going to be great, and it will be. But I think that that's been my thing, and I think I've had to learn that is a shortcoming of mine, and how to put in systems and just be more diligent on that aspect of myself. Mm-hmm. Whereas at first I didn't even know that this was a problem, or like I kind of did, but wasn't trying to seek out resources or help or tools to be better at it.
Right.
So yeah, that's definitely been my biggest one, and it's an ongoing journey.
Yeah. And yeah, it at the end, it all ends up being a job, whether you're an influencer, whether you're working for somebody else. It's all a job. And we all have those moments where you just don't want to do that thing. And you know, if as glamorous as influencing sounds, it does have its challenges and its ups and downs at moments. So it yeah, I think it's understandable, you know, to experience that kind of systems process struggle for you. I'm the opposite end of that. I am in bed usually by 7:30, 8 o'clock at night because of the fact that I get up at 4 in the morning to do work on my business, to do creation, to then work my job, which is high pressure sales, and then to wrap it all up at the end of the day and do something like this.
Yes.
And then go into creation. So I'm always thinking about it, and that's kind of been my struggle, is turning it off. So
I'm with you on the turning it off too. Like I feel like it's the cliche, I quit my job so I could, my 9 to 5 so I could work 24/7. But actually, to your point, something I say often is that I was actually more structured, more diligent. I was actually waking up earlier when I had my day job. So having those constraints actually worked really well for myself. I knew that, okay, if I had a call with somebody on the East Coast, I would do like podcast interviews or like business meetings at like 5, 6 a.m. my time, because people out East were awake. And then I started my job at 7:30. So I would do that. And then I would come home at 3:30 and I would work. Sometimes there would be late nights if I had deadlines, but then I would finish it, wrap it up, do the same thing tomorrow. And I think I just really underestimated. I just thought that structure and diligence would carry over just seamlessly once I had all the time to myself. but it was a struggle to realize it didn't, and I had to actually make that structure and constraints for myself to be able to succeed.
Yeah, I think there is the famous person or a famous model or famous rule or something that if you have more time, you fill that time. And,
Yes.
whereas when you're working full time, you have that time crunch and you just have to get more done in less time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think once you unleashed 8 hours of freedom,
I didn't know what to do with it.
yeah, you're like, all I picture
Yeah.
is this meme right now of Mel Gibson right now. So,
Oh man. Yep.
all right.
Absolutely.
Now, that being said, you love giving back, and your
Mhm.
channel is, to me, about helping people become creators and understanding the creator world and just understanding the value of social media and that type of thing. What are probably some of the key things that you would probably pass on to someone who was looking at getting into this space, who was like, oh, I really want to try it, but I don't know what to do, where to go. Is it worth it?
Mhm.
What would you pass on at this point?
Cool. I think the first would just be a hard stop, like just do it. I think that so many people get really stuck in that like research gathering stage, the overthinking stage, and truly the only way to actually learn quickly is to start doing the thing and taking your own notes about how it's working or not. I think that there's only so much you can gather from other people. You're going to learn so much faster like on the ground doing it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah,
think
17
it's
views is very
yeah.
motivational to never do that one again.
Yeah. And I think that there's so many people that are scared of that failure, quote unquote failure, not realizing that that is a tool for like a lot of people's success. It's like what you said earlier. So many people are serial entrepreneurs. They're like, they try a lot of things before one really sticks. And they're taking all of those lessons from all of those different experiences. So creators, same thing. It's a job. You got to get out there, test it, pivot, work accordingly. And the other thing I would say is I feel like I think at the same it's might seem like opposite advice, but it's to still have a plan. I think that I get on one-on-one calls with people, I get it in my comments. There's so many people that are like, well, I'm just posting content and like the brand deals aren't coming in, or like I'm not growing, or like what am I doing wrong? And they're really hesitant to like niche down, or they're really hesitant to like approach this as a business and like build a website, build a blog, like do all of those businessy things in the terms of creating. I think people just think content creator, this is just fun, following my heart, and we're operating on vibes. But it's still a business, so you need a business plan. You can still go forward and make mistakes and pivot that plan and learn as you go, but you still need to proceed with like some type of idea about where you're going.
Yep. And like as unpolished as Sam Sulek's videos, or Sulek, I don't know, I can't remember. As
I don't either.
unpolished as his videos are, you would think, looking at it just very, top level, this is just somebody documenting their journey. Oh no, I'm sure that kid, and I call him a kid because he's only 21. But I'm sure that kid has a plan. I am sure he
Mm-hmm.
is using it to get sponsorships. I'm sure he's getting merchandise. I'm sure he's getting free product. I'm sure he is getting workout time. I'm sure he's getting photo sessions, etc. Maybe tech equipment, whatever. There
Yeah.
is always going to be a motivation, no matter how much you think and just doing it for the vibe. Well, no.
Mm-hmm.
You really, if you want to do this, then then just vlog, right? Just
Yeah.
vlog
Yeah.
if you don't want to be a full content
Hmm.
business type of thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong
And
with that.
just vlog. No, there's nothing wrong with it. And I would add to that saying just vlog, but don't have the expectations
Mhm.
of a strategic content creator.
Right.
I think that's what I see a lot. A lot of people are like, they see some vloggers that they think all they're doing is just mindless vlogging, not really appreciating that there's this whole business strategy around it. And then they try to just vlog, documenting, having fun, but thinking that that's going to get them to that next level.
Yes. Yeah. Like life with Riza.
Yeah.
She does absolutely stunning, beautiful content. And if you looked at it and said, oh, that's just vlogging, no, there's tons of camera angles. She's got that whole 180-degree rule in her
Hmm.
in her videos. I
Yeah.
remember watching a video where she's late. She's late to
Yeah.
go to pick up her brother at the airport. But it shows her jumping over the camera. So no,
Yeah.
she was not late because she had time
Yeah.
to set that camera up and take that shot of her
Yeah.
running to be late for her brother. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
as much as
Yeah.
I
It's
think the vloggers, professional vloggers, the Casey Neistats of the world,
hmm.
Catherin Manning, I think she switched her channel
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
more of a vlogging
She
style as
did.
well.
Yeah.
As much as we think that vloggers are just vlogging, no, they're still motivation. But it's okay if you just want to document your journey. And that's
Mhm.
vlogging, right? Vlogging,
Yeah.
there's many
Yeah.
like family blogs and, just documenting the life of a child so that grandparents can read it overseas kind of thing,
Totally.
right? So it just,
Totally.
yeah, uh, have a goal or don't have a goal.
Yes.
That's what
Yeah.
it comes down to. So, do
Yeah.
it with intention or do it without intention, and don't have
Hmm.
expectations if you're doing it without intention. So, yeah.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
So now you mentioned earlier you had all this time and space. So how do you manage your work-life balance now?
Ooh, still work in progress, even after all these years. But I think a huge, huge, huge one for me has been trying to maintain some semblance of work hours. So I do work 6 days a week. I
Mhm.
protect Sundays. That's something that I've been wanting to do for a while, but have finally been really diligent about it. And that's like an absolute no work allowed day. Like if I have a deadline, I have to get it done before. I'm not filming, I'm not editing, I'm not even like brainstorming. No work on Sundays. Um, and outside of that, I do try to be like, okay, when I wake up, I have my breakfast, I have my whatever, and ideally it would be working out. We lost that, we'll come back. Um, but then being like, okay, this is the start of my day, and we're not going to try to work until like 10, 11 p.m. until I go to sleep. I don't want it to be like, okay, turn off the computer and wash my face, go straight to bed. I want to have some downtime, whether that's friends, time with my husband, reading, writing again. That's a huge goal, is to like savor some of that time for writing. Again, not there yet. But I think if I'm approaching this as a job, then I should have like work hours in some respect.
Fair. I think it's a great way to be, and good on you to have Sundays off. I'm not there yet. I'm still a 7-day a week, and I know I said there's
Yeah.
days that I'm in bed at 7:30. Well, I'm still working in bed. I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it's just a different environment that I might
Yes.
be running research through Gemini while laying in bed trying to calm my brain down, which that wouldn't help, but
Yeah.
anyway. So I know we're going to come to the end soon here. So there's a couple questions and they're more kind of technical on the side.
Hmm.
So I know we touched upon it briefly about the social media platforms that you use, and Instagram being kind of your go-to for the business, but then YouTube being kind of the love where you like to spend more time. what would you say resonates better, short form or long form video? Do you use short form, I guess, on Instagram? Well, you mentioned TikTok, so yes, and I do know you do use it, but I'm assuming that
Yeah.
yeah. What's your
Yeah.
experience, on Instagram with static posts versus reels
Mm,
versus long form? I'd love your insights there.
absolutely. So I think first and foremost, I think perfect world does involve a balance of all of them because they have different um, benefits to your business. So I think that short form is so powerful for that initial awareness piece. It's how you can get in front of new followers, new eyeballs. But it's not, I find, where you're really building much of a sense of a community. That's why I love long form, even with my blog and YouTube. I find that that's where you have the space to really give deeper value, like form more of a sense of a connection with people. So I think those are kind of the two different hats I'm thinking about when I think about short form versus long. Um, on Instagram in particular, it's so funny. I know everybody's like reels, 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 and Meta themselves are pushing reels, reels, reels. But I've actually noticed lately that my carousels, or even my static images, that's just like photos with a nice heartfelt caption underneath it, resonates so much more with my audience. I'll get like looking at the analytics, my reel will have a lot of people who are not following me in that little pie chart. Whereas my carousels and in feed posts have a much bigger piece of the pie of my audience. So I find that that's what I'm posting to really nurture people, form that connection. It's not long form, but I find for Instagram has that same sort of benefit. Whereas reels, I think, you know, necessary evil, or maybe some people love them. I do like playing with short form, but I do find I'm not like jumping on all the trends or like pumping things out in that way. It's more so just to use to tell my own little stories. But I find that those again are getting pushed out to people that don't know you, really don't trust you yet, so you have to be more in like a hooky mentality. They don't want to hear your whole sob story just kind of like right out of the gate, unless you're making it like really hooky and enticing, or like the visuals are stunning.
Mhm.
But I can't just come on the way I would like on my stories, for example, just pulling up my phone being like, hey guys, and rant to it. Can't really do that on my on my reels, because it's probably going to go again to people that are like, who is this chick?
Yeah, it's so true. And when you said about the scrolling thing, the static posts becoming, more, I will say I still use Instagram as it was first created. Even with
Mm-hmm.
reels, I will watch only the reels that pop up in my feed. So having
Yeah.
closed captions are so important. I'll watch something if somebody has sent me it and said this is really hilarious or this is interesting or whatever. I'll watch it then, like, into the actual feed. But for the most part, I'm looking at the static posts, the pictures, and then if a
Mm.
reel comes in there and it has closed captions that I can read it while I'm scrolling, then I'm in, no problem. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
I'm with you. I love that. I feel like it allows us to slow down a little bit more, which
Almost like
is kind of the
good old
opposite of
days.
these algorithms. Yeah,
The good old days
truly.
when I didn't have to grind so hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
So last question I want to ask you is
Hmm.
what are the essential tools that you use in your business? Like for instance,
Ooh.
I'm a Da Vinci Resolve, love Da Vinci. Love everything Da Vinci. I didn't start there, but it's now one of my main tools. So what are your
Ooh.
main tools, softwares, whether it's equipment? What would you
Yeah.
say? And by the way, I love your new Nikon, so by all means, talk about that if you
Yes.
want. So,
Yeah. I mean, the Nikon ZF. I've honestly actually been so in love with it. It's I think because it has like the dials on it, inspired by the film cameras. I took it on a walk the other day, and it allowed me to slow down and actually be like, okay, I'm controlling the settings, and like that tactile feel just brought me back to kind of why I fell in love with photography. So that's, yeah, in love. But I would say I'm a Premiere Pro girl.
Okay.
I've been actually started technically in Final Cut, and then had an opportunity to do this like virtual summer camp with Adobe, and it got me hooked on Premiere Pro. Haven't looked back. For anybody who is into Pinterest or exploring Pinterest, Tailwind, I swear by it. It is a Pinterest pin scheduler.
Yeah.
And there's honestly like nothing really like it. And people always think I'm trying to sell them on something, but there's like a free version that is incredibly robust. And it literally allows you to schedule pins for weeks, months, years, even in advance. I took a weekend and made up 50 pins and scheduled them all the way out until October.
Wow.
And so people are always like, Pinterest so hard. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't even have to be that time consuming. So I feel like those kind of are the two in my tool belt, as well as Notion. I think it's the only thing that has stuck for me in terms of organization. It's how I plan all my YouTube videos. My brand deals are in there. I drop my affiliate links in there, like anything I could possibly need to know or remember or keep track of for my business, it is in Notion.
Yeah, I love Notion. I mean, I created a video on Notion.
Yeah.
It on using the 12-week year and how I integrated 12-week year into Notion. And
Ooh, I'm gonna check it out.
yeah, so absolutely love Notion. I have been experimenting though with Trello because of the fact I'm in this process right now of and it's a me thing too. I love testing equipment, testing different things out, because if I'm going to be talking about it or helping my clients with something, I want to make sure I know exactly how it works and to be able to do some education. Like, I don't want to be one of these creators that, I have like a Samsung Note and a Pixel going at the same time right now. I want to test, and an iPhone over there. I want to test everything at every moment in time, because of the fact that if I'm going to talk about it, I want to know everything I can. Probably also why I didn't start creating for a very long time. I was in that research mode that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Your channel being one of them that, I would sit for hours watching things. Roberto Blake was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being in that research mode for sure had me stuck for a very long time.
Real.
But Notion, that was where I first started. I've tried ClickUp. I've tried Asana, and now I'm trying out Trello to kind of do how I can see it working for different brains. And that's what it is that I think everyone has a certain different brain, how it works with them. And so I wanted to know, if I had somebody who is very visual, what is the very visual kind of thing? And yes, that's Trello, type of thing. So I'm creating things like CRMs for sales agents and that type of thing.
Cool.
Using those kind of free tools until somebody can get to the point where they are affording stuff. And talking about CRMs, I'm also, battling my own creations against some of the big guys out there. So your Salesforces, your HubSpots, your Zohos, your Pipedrive, that type of thing. I'm testing all of that, and I think that's what takes the most amount of time in my business, is the constant testing and trying.
It's going to be so worth it.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have to tell us, after 6 months, your experience with your Nikon and how it goes, and give us some feedback on it. I'd love to hear.
Absolutely will.
Kind of.
I feel like there's always going to be something.
Yeah.
Always. I think that, yeah, I mean, even this one, I love it. But it's funny that you say about the size, because I'm fully aware that this is a bit of a beast to carry around. And that's just,
But you have
pros and cons.
I think you have that really nice bag, that kind of purse looking, that
I
pop into.
do. And I just got another one, gonna make some content of it.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to watch.
I have an obsession with a camera bag, purses, and camera backpacks. Like I've been on the hunt for the perfect one for like 3 years now. So I'm like slowly accumulating and hoping to review them and yeah, keep you posted.
All right. I'm definitely going to stay tuned. So I want to thank you, Kea. I really want to thank
Thank
you
you.
for being on the podcast and sharing your experiences, because I'm hoping that people will see this and like start following your channels. And I will be posting your channels probably right now, but also at the beginning and throughout. But I really hope that people reach out and start following your content. You know, you produce such lovely things and it's so aesthetic and it's such a great story to watch. You motivate, you know, people. I'm going to say you motivate women to really be who they are and start exploring. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you for being on the podcast, and I'm wishing you so much luck in the future. And if there's anything you want to say, sign off with, by all means, go ahead, and then we'll call it a day.
No, I just want to say huge thank you for inviting me, for reaching out, and for all of your kind words. It's been such an honor and so much fun to chat. It's been really great, and yeah, I'm excited for you and your own journey. Thank you.
Thank you. I have that little. It's
Me too.
happening. It's happening. So, anyway, well, with that, I guess we'll call it a wrap. So thank you, everyone. See you on the next podcast. And please give Kea a follow. She is so inspirational. And I'll see you guys all soon.